I'm calling it now. If the Eagles win on Sunday, A.J. Brown will be the Super Bowl MVP. We get into our best bets for Super Bowl 59 on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, this is perfect timing that you can go win yourself some $200 on FanDuel because there are some amazing bets out there for the Super Bowl, right? Like, I mean, the choices that you have, they're endless. But we are going to give you our favorite best bets of the week. And it's starting right off the bat here strong for me with A.J. Brown at MVP because his odds are plus 3,500. They're not expecting him to win MVP. And I get it. It's normally a quarterback. But when it's not a quarterback, it's typically a wide receiver. I know people are going to say, well, if the Eagles win, it's going to be Saquon Barkley. A running back has not won Super Bowl MVP since Terrell Davis did it in 1997 season. All right. And I get it. Barkley's great, but also the Chiefs defense is really good. And I don't expect Barkley to be, ripping off 50-yard rushing touchdowns. I just don't expect it. I do expect this to be a heavy passing game. I do expect A.J. Brown to hit both of his receiving yard line of over 80 receiving yards, and I expect him to score a touchdown. So I'm predicting 100 yards and a touchdown for him, and I'm calling for him to win MVP in this game if the Eagles end up winning.
I like it. You're coming out hot out of the gate, and you're setting the bar pretty high here with this one. So I'm going to get something that pays off pretty well. Not quite as well. What you have is plus 3,500. Mine you can find at FanDuel Sportsbook at plus 1,300. It's Kareem Hunt, more than 100 rushing yards. Now, this seems crazy, right? But if you look at what happened in the two Eagles games that were competitive, we take out the Commanders, because if they'd stayed in the game, it might have been interesting for Brian Robinson Jr. He was having a good start to that, but the game script just went haywire. And they were passing for most of the second half. But when you look at the Packers, they stayed in the game with Josh Jacobs until they stopped giving them the ball. He ran hard. He ran well. We had also, Kyren Williams go past the century mark against the Eagles in the playoffs. So I think a key for the Chiefs is going to be wearing down Jalen Carter and Milton Williams and Jordan Davis, these big dudes in the middle. You got to wear them down so they can't chase Patrick Mahomes. So this is one of the weaknesses of the Eagles. They don't traditionally have the edge guys the same way. Like Brandon Graham's just coming off an injury. They do have some guys, but typically they win by winning the inside. So I think there's going to be a strategy of the Chiefs to try to wear them down. They do have Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and some of these guys. It's not been the best run blocking season for the Chiefs, but I think they will be relentless in giving Kareem Hunt the ball, like even if he's getting like 3.5 yards per carry. So all that said, I think he's going to get the volume based on my FanDuel lineup. So we release, I think it's going to be a Chiefs controlled game a little bit. And Hunt, I think, is going to finish the drive. So on top of that, I think I like a touchdown for him as well in this game. But I think he gets to 100 yards. And I think if they can get him the ball 25 times, and I think it's going to happen over the course of this game to keep this Eagles pass rush and pass defense honest, then I think he's going to hit this 100 yards. But I like it because it's at plus 1,300 for a running back to break 100 yards. That isn't Saquon Barkley in this game. That's why I'm diving straight in.
It is funny because we definitely see this game going two completely different ways, right? I'm picturing a very pass-heavy game. You're picturing a very run-heavy game. And we saw that in our FanDuel lineups yesterday. And we're going to see that throughout our bets today, right? So my next one, it's going to be with the passing game again. And a lot of them are going to be that today. But my next favorite one is Jalen Hurts, 250-plus passing yards. So that's an alternate line. His line is a bit lower than that. But with this alternate line going higher, you get plus 225 odds. So that means if you bet 100, you win 225. I would say bet 10 to win 2250, right? Because I'm a responsible bettor. But I do think Jalen Hurts throws for at least 250 yards in this game. He has done this only 4 times this season, so I get it. The probability of this year has been low, but in his 3 games against the Chiefs, and 2 of them he had 387 passing yards, and the other one he had 304 passing yards, and 304 came in the Super Bowl. And guess what? In the games leading up to that last Super Bowl, Super Bowl 57, he had 154 and 121 passing yards in the playoff games leading up to that game. It's not like he was some different player back then. They were also running the ball a lot, and he wasn't throwing, and all of a sudden he had to explode to win this, to not win, but try to keep up with the Chiefs. And they're going to have to do that again. They're going to have to try to keep up with this Chiefs offense. He had 246 passing yards last week on just 28 passing attempts, nearly 9 yards per pass attempt in a game they blew out the Commanders. And they didn't even need to really do much in the second half, right? Because they're up by so much in that second half. And he still almost hit this line at 246. So I think he at least throws for 250. I wanted to go crazier at 275, but I'm going to keep it at 250 plus at plus 225 odds.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think if it goes the way I think it will, this will also help Hurts, right? I mean, part of it is it's not necessarily I think it's going to be a running game. I think Barkley gets his, the Chiefs control it, and then the Eagles have to pass more. So I do actually like your A.J. Brown part of having a big game. This may not be in a winning cause, and with Jalen Hurts, he's going to have to throw quite a bit. So I do like it, and if he throws, he's going to throw to Brown. So you got to keep all your props kind of correlated, right? It doesn't make sense if you don't do that. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. Like, don't make some random things that are going to be at odds at each other. Make it make sense overall what you're thinking with the game flow and all that. Michelle, I think you're totally doing that. Like, Brown and Hurts have to have big games together for the Eagles to win, and that has to be a big part of their game plan. So I love it. Now I have Xavier Worthy. Now I was looking into the Eagles a little bit. They actually give up some touchdowns to wide receivers. They're pretty good against the pass overall. They're very good in terms of the inside coverage there with Cooper DeJean. Quinyon Mitchell has been a revelation as well as a rookie on the outside. But when they get in a little bit closer, they tend to give up some touchdowns, and we've seen it with Malik Neighbors and others, that they can give up some big plays after the catch as well as we get closer to scoring position. So when I look at that, it all lines up for Xavier Worthy, anytime touchdown, plus 155 on FanDuel that you'll find it. I like it. It's weird because his value is not that much different from Kareem Hunt, who's at plus 150, but you get a little bit better payout. I don't think it's going to be very popular here as a bet, so you'll have some uniqueness with this. But overall, I really like Xavier Worthy because he can do it on the ground. He can do it through the air. Big play, short play, anything can happen here. I like Worthy to find the end zone for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, if someone's going to score a touchdown other than Travis Kelce in the receiving game, you would place your money down on Xavier Worthy. They have been trying to get the ball in his hands, and what's really nice, he can do it as a runner or a receiver for that anytime touchdown. So I like that. We're going to get into more bets that we like. We have 4 more each for you for the Super Bowl. We'll get to that right after a quick break. This episode is sponsored by Betterhelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings a new chapter, 365 blank pages waiting for you to fill. If there's a part of your life you want to rewrite or a plot twist you've been craving, why wait? Life isn't about fleeting resolutions. It's about taking control and becoming the author of your own story. Think of therapy as your personal editor, helping you craft the life you deserve. It's not just for crisis situations. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping strategies, improve your relationships, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're facing a challenge or just looking for personal growth, therapy is a powerful tool to help guide your journey. Whether it's learning how to set boundaries or tackling stress in new ways, therapy can help you develop skills for a better tomorrow. Even if you've never tried therapy, the benefits are clear. Finding someone to talk to can gain fresh perspectives, can make all the difference in how you navigate life's ups and downs. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com. And you'll get 10% off your first month when you use that promo code LOCKEDON at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Vinny, give me another bet or projection that you're eyeing this week for Super Bowl 59.
Yeah, I think they will do a good job, the Chiefs will, of containing Saquon Barkley. And again, I'll name drop this. Steve Spagnuolo said they're just going to be happy if he doesn't break more than 10 yards on any run, right? They're going to expect some of that to happen. But look, Saquon Barkley is still going to be a big part of the game plan. I think he's going to get high volume for one more game. So you don't get a lot of value with Saquon Barkley, but I wanted to get in when he's on the plus side. So looking at that number of plus 125 with the rushing yards, it's plus 140. So I think he'll get that. Again, I think the Eagles have to stay balanced. I think that's the bottom line of these teams. So they got to stay balanced, keep the other defense on its toes. So they have to keep it honest. And the Eagles particularly have to do it because they don't want Jalen Hurts to see a lot of pressure in his face and get stuck with a lot of tougher third downs, right? So they need to run on early downs with Barkley. I'm not saying they do that necessarily to be predictable early in the game, but overall, I think Barkley gets fed quite a bit. Why not? I mean, he's the guy who carried you here. So, look, I don't think the Chiefs are actually going to sweat if he gets 130 yards. As long as one of them is not a 70-yard touchdown, they'll be okay. Like, they'll be fine managing that because then it also means that, they're not going to have a lot to worry about in terms of just getting burned by big plays. So I really do like Saquon Barkley. Steady. Again, this is a pretty, to me, it's actually on the safer side for a plus money bet. So that's why I'm going with it here.
Yeah, so we just different views of this game because unless Barkley can rip off a 50-yard run, I don't think he's going to hit his over in his rushing that he needs to because it's going to be so high because he's been so good. But, I mean, betting against Saquon Barkley is never smart either. So I guess you're probably on the right side there. I'm going back to the passing game, and it's DeVonta Smith over 20.5 yards, longest reception. Smith has had at least one 20-yard reception in 7 of 8 career playoff games. The only game that he didn't have one was against the Rams this year in Philadelphia in the heavy snow for a good chunk of that game. He's had a 20-yard reception in 11 of 14 games. He's had at least 4 targets this season. In the 3 games against the Chiefs in his career, he's had a 45-yard reception. That was in the Super Bowl, a 41-yard reception, and a 37-yard reception. He's had multiple receptions of 20 yards, and each matchup he's faced the Chiefs. So I like him to have at least one long reception. I don't know if he'll have a big day. I don't know if he'll have a ton of receptions, but I do think he'll come down with at least one long reception in this game.
Yeah, I do like it. That is what he kind of does, right? He's a big play guy, and that's why he's sometimes disappointing because he's boom or bust, and you don't get those other plays or those touchdowns the way that A.J. Brown gets consistently involved in this one. I don't expect necessarily a forced double team here on anyone, so DeVonta Smith is probably going to be the better matchup overall. It's hard to go with his receiving yards, right? You don't get much value there versus A.J. Brown, but this is a unique situation because it just is individually on him making one big play. So I do like that. He's a big play receiver, and that's kind of what he's lived on a little bit this season with Jalen Hurts. Now, look, I may say this game is about running, but I think it's more about the Chiefs sticking with their primary guys and occasionally maybe a wrinkle to score a touchdown. And Worthy could be part of that wrinkle, right? Getting a carry in the red zone. Even Travis Kelce, who didn't score a lot, could be a wrinkle in that all of a sudden. So I'm going to combine them. I think this game really flows through 3 offensive skill players that Mahomes trusts the most. And I think that's why he goes to these guys in big games. I think they're Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, and Kareem Hunt. So I'm going with Kelce and Worthy on top of Kareem Hunt getting 100 yards. I think they're going to be peppered with targets, and I have them at 250 plus receiving yards combined. Now, this seems very aggressive, but then when you look at the payout on this one, folks, plus 6,000 on FanDuel, that is not totally unreasonable for his 2 top targets to go off in this game. So that's the biggest appeal for me in this one. I think it's possible. Look, if this one pays out and they go passing nuts, I'm not going to be that worried I didn't get the Kareem one, right? It's a plus 6,000. So this way, you're, quote, hedging your bets if you think it's going to be a pass-friendly affair. But this one just stood out to me because it is possible, and it seems like a very long-shotty type bet, but it's not really when you look at it because, again, Mahomes tends to trust his main dudes in situations like these. And Worthy has become one of his main dudes. He's a circle of trust, even more so than like a veteran DeAndre Hopkins or Marquise Hollywood Brown. So I am really tempted by this one. Tell me I'm crazy.
I mean, it's crazy, but it's plus 600 or 6,000 odds, right? It's supposed to be crazy. It's supposed to be hard to do. I will say I love these ones that they combine them, right? Because it gives you two chances for a guy to go off. And if a guy is going to go off for the Chiefs, it's going to be Kelce or Worthy, right? If a guy is going to get 150 plus yards in this game, it's going to be one of those two. And then the other one would just have to have a pretty solid game on top of that. So I don't mind this bet. I mean, it's a crazy one, but that's why you're getting plus 6,000 odds. I will say I'm going to give you a safer projection here. I'm going over to PrizePicks, and we love our PrizePick app, but they have a really cool projection over there that I think is pretty safe. And it's Patrick Mahomes plus Jalen Hurts, a combined 67.5 rushing yards. So I'm finally going to the running game, but I'm going to the running game with the quarterbacks. And you might say, well, if you expect a lot of passing, there could be a lot of passing, and there still can be these quarterbacks running for a bunch of yards too. I mean, like I said, Hurts has had over 300 passing yards in 2 of 3 games against the Chiefs. He also had over 40 rushing yards in both of those games as well. So it's not like it was keeping him from running. They have combined for at least 74 rushing yards. And again, they only need 68. And 6 of the last 10 weeks that they've both played, 59 yards combined in 2 of those other weeks. So it was very close to what they needed. But in this last Super Bowl in 57 that they played against each other, they combined for 114 yards. And this was a high-scoring game with a lot of passing. And they still combined for 114 rushing yards. In their 3 meetings, they have combined for at least 67 rushing yards in each of them. 114, like I said, in the Super Bowl, 73 in another one, and 67 in another one. They need to hit 68. Mahomes had 66 by himself in the Super Bowl last year. 44 in the Super Bowl prior to that. Like Mahomes, when he needs to, when it's the biggest game of the year, he's going to utilize his legs. So I won't be shocked if either Hurts or Mahomes hits it by themselves, but they get to do it together. So again, combined more than 67.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I like half of this. I'll tell you which half I like. We'll get that in our final segment. But yeah, I mean, I like it because who am I to argue with a rushing yards thing on PrizePicks if you're doing a projection, right? Yeah, both these quarterbacks are mobile. You're right about Mahomes running in big moments. You've talked about that quite a bit. Hurts is just a running quarterback. He's going to have to make things happen, and he's probably going to be flushed out a few times with Steve Spagnuolo bringing the blitz pressure. He's going to revert to that. On top of trying to find A.J. Brown in a hot route single coverage, he's going to take off and run when that does not happen. So I do like that totally from you. So, again, I'll tell you which half of this I really like. I'm adjusting a little bit based on this number. But, yeah, I do like it because it kind of hedges your bets. If Hurts gets like 50, then you can get less out of Mahomes here for sure.
We still have 4 more projections that we're eyeing for the Super Bowl that we like this week. We're going to tell you how to get involved with FanDuel and PrizePicks during this quick break, and then get into our final favorite projections for the Super Bowl 59 to finish today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59.
This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by PrizePicks, and it's been a lot of fun breaking down these games, and we've had our PrizePicks 6 of the week all season long. Now the big game is almost here. There's no better way to make it even more exciting than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With more than 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, PrizePicks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. PrizePicks has a free pick. That's right. You'll need to throw for 1 yard from Patrick Mahomes, and you'll get that free there. So that's basically a free pick. Pair that with just one more correct pick, and you're cashing out. So we hope Patrick Mahomes will come through for you with that easily, and some other things that you can look at as well. This week, I do have one with Patrick Mahomes of the passing yards. No, it is not just 1 yard. It's another way to approach it this week, but I'm very excited about that. So we'll get to that in our final segment. Check out the promo tabs. Check out any of the super sweet Millie Winners big game lineups. If you take a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Michelle, time to close the show here. And again, we've been diving into the FanDuel action. We've been looking at the PrizePicks picks. What's your one of your final 2 picks that we have for the listeners today?
Let me go back to the running game because I don't think Chiefs running backs are going to put up big yardage at all, but I do think one of them can score a touchdown, and that's Kareem Hunt. Anytime touchdown score at plus 150 on FanDuel, or if you want to put a projection in PrizePicks, him to score a touchdown is a demon pick. So you can get involved in FanDuel or PrizePicks for him to get a touchdown. But he has scored a rushing touchdown in 4 straight games. Anytime to get around the goal line, like it's him that gets these chances around there. We know Patrick Mahomes is not a big quarterback sneaker, right? If he's going to steal a touchdown, it's going to be from 10 yards out, basically. He's not a guy that steals a bunch of those short yardage touchdowns. So I do think if they get around the goal line, Kareem Hunt's going to get his chance and he can get his touchdown like he's done in each of the last 4 games. And yes, the Eagles are a good defense overall, but Josh Jacobs had a 1-yard rushing touchdown against them in the wild card round. Jaden Daniels scored a rushing touchdown against them in the NFC Championship. Like they're not like this dominant force that cannot be run on, right? So again, I don't expect Kareem Hunt to have a big game, but I could definitely see him scoring a touchdown because that's what he does.
Yeah, so putting it all together, mashing up what Michelle said and what I've said, we like 100 and a score for Kareem Hunt in some combination.
I like a score. I did not say
that. Well, putting them together, we like 100 score. But I do like that quite a bit as well, Michelle. I mean, I looked at that, but then I was like, oh, let's go make it a little bit interesting. Xavier Worthy, too. So, like, let's hope both of them score, and Travis Kelce, too, and everyone we've said, because we want to make it exciting and winning for all of you. Now, I almost went with rushing yards on Patrick Mahomes, but I'm saving it for the other quarterback. Spoiler alert. But I went to PrizePicks here. I'm taking the 252.5 passing yards more for Patrick Mahomes. Look, we get the 1 yard passing, wherever you want to play it. I think he's going to get, I'll just tell you, like closer to 300 in this game. I don't want to say it's going to be up there and just lock it in, but he's going to easily clear 250. So I'm saying 275, somewhere in there that you're going to get. So I think you can play it up to 275 here with Patrick Mahomes because, look, Patrick Mahomes is a proud dude. He saw what just happened, right? All these other quarterbacks winning awards, not getting nominated. He knows he's the best, though, on the field. And I think he's going to say, look, I need to take control of this game. And he's going to be very competitive early, pass. And I think you look at the history, he's 8-0 against Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio cannot figure out Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. Like, he can contain a few things, but he cannot totally slow this guy down. He's seen this defense. He knows this defense from the days in Denver. He picks it apart here. Look, it could be a lot of short passes, and then maybe a calculated deep throw to Xavier Worthy or someone else. But I think you're going to have a lot of pick apart here from Patrick Mahomes.
So it seems like you kind of think it might be a heavy passing game too. You're expecting a lot of offense.
Yes, I'm expecting a lot of offense. The last game was 38-35, Michelle. So, there should be a lot of offense. I don't expect either the defense. They've been good, right? But they're not, like as you mentioned, they're not totally impenetrable and shut down. There are significant holes on both defenses that you can exploit. So I just think it's going to be a big game. The Chiefs are going to go old school. I know this is an old saying that we have. It's the old pass to score, run to win type thing. And I think that's what's going to happen for the Chiefs on this one.
And then I'm going to go with another prize pick. I'm sure you can find it on whatever app you want, but Dallas Goedert, more than 51.5 receiving yards. I do think so. I have one for now, AJ Brown, for DeVonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. I think it's going to be AJ Brown and Goedert who get the most targets, the most receiving yards in this game, with DeVonta Smith coming up with a big play or two. But Goedert has been the guy for the Eagles during this playoffs. I mean, he's the one that leads this team in targets, receptions, and receiving yards in the postseason. Had 85 receiving yards in the NFC Championship, 56 yards in that divisional round. No defense allowed more receiving yards to tight ends than the Chiefs in the 2024 regular season. And then in the divisional round, we saw Dalton Schultz put up 63 yards against the Chiefs. And no, the Bills tight ends didn't do anything against them, but they never do. Like, we weren't even on the Bills tight ends in any of their projections against the Chiefs, even though it was a good matchup because, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox don't ever do anything. But Goedert gets this 51.5 receiving yards. I mean, in 2 career games against the Chiefs, 56 and 60. In the playoffs, he's consistently put up at least 50 receiving yards. So I'm taking the more than 51.5 receiving yards in Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, that's been around that number the whole time, and he has been a bigger factor in the playoffs. There's also a tempting one, I'll say, with Dallas Goedert on PrizePicks. It's actually a demon pick. It's 0.5 rushing yards for Dallas Goedert. They've actually used him a little bit running some plays. So 0.5 rushing yards. That basically means he has to carry the ball once in this game. If you think the Eagles are going to introduce that, they have. Like, I was surprised. In the playoffs, you've seen him touch the ball in different ways, and they've never really done that. So maybe they're experimenting a little bit. Look, Kellen Moore's probably going to stay in New Orleans here. He might as well go out in a bang. They need to have something there, right? I don't think it needs to be a Trey Burton Philly special, but maybe the Philly special is a Dallas Goedert, like rushing touchdown or something like that in this one. So something to watch for. But Dallas Goedert has to be a key weapon. And look, we know at least with the Eagles it's a bit streamlined, much like the Chiefs. We know it's going to be Worthy, Kelce, a lot of them. We know it's going to be Brown, Goedert, and a little bit of DeVonta Smith in those big play situations. So I love it. Dallas Goedert overall will be having a good game. Now, I'm going to 1/2 of the rushing yards on PrizePicks. You had the combined one. I'm going straight up Jalen Hurts, 38.5. What else can I do? I got to finish on a rushing QB thing, and I think it's going to happen because, again, Steve Zagnola is going to be aggressive. Jalen Hurts struggles with pressure all the time, so he's going to try to put as much pressure on him as possible. I don't think things are necessarily going to always open up downfield for these receivers, so he's going to have to take off and run a little bit more. I think also having that layoff to get a little bit healthier. We saw him run okay after the little knee injury scare there in the middle round against the Rams. So I think now you go into this matchup with the Commanders. It's a really good spot here, or after the matchup with the Commanders, where he was running, had 2 weeks to rest. I think that was really good for him. So I think he'll be a little bit rested and ready to run because he's going to do whatever it takes to win this game. I think that running is going to be a big factor, not just a tush push. He's going to have to get some good chunk yards here for the movement.
Yeah, and it was good to see him play a game with that knee injury, and it really didn't look to affect him very much at all.
2 weeks will make him better, yeah. So he should be
not
fine.
Worried about that. Now, give me your final projection for this game. Who wins and by how much? Yeah,
I do like the Chiefs to win. I do, obviously, with all these numbers, the game to go over that total. I think it's at 48.5, wherever you play here. That betting spread has been somewhere between 1.5 and 2 points. And again, Chiefs are going to win by more than 2 points. If they do, they'll win by a field goal or more. So I'm taking the over and the Chiefs in this game.
I'm going to actually take the Eagles, and I'm going to take them to win 32-28 by 4 points. Okay. That's what I'm going with. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to look stupid because the Chiefs always win, and they have that magic over them for sure. But I'm going with the Eagles. I'm going to hold on to it here. That is it for our episode today. That is it for our episodes of the week. I want you all to enjoy Super Bowl 59. Have a good time. Eat your face away. Have some yummy beers or whatever you want to indulge in during the Super Bowl. Enjoy. Talk to you on Monday. Bye, y'all.